So Nintendo had their Nintendo E3 Direct um, back about a week ago, a little over a week ago, and overall it was really cool. There was a lot of cool things that they showed off. Obviously, the big ones were Banjo Kazooie in Smash, and the Breath of the Wild trailer, Breath of the Wild 2 trailer rather, um, and Luigi's Mansion, stuff like that. Really cool stuff. Um, but then in one of the tree houses that they have, Nintendo has after their main Nintendo Direct, they were doing a lot of Pokemon Sword and Shield news. And this is um, Pokemon is a franchise that I've had a lot of love for throughout my life. Ever since I could read, basically, I would play Pokemon Stadium was probably my first game, and then Pokemon Snap also was one that I really enjoyed. Um, so I have a lot of love for this franchise, and anything that I say in this video, know that it comes out of love for the franchise itself and not hating it, because I don't want to hate it. I want these games to succeed, and I want modern Pokemon to be really, really good and really special for the next generation, especially. But Nintendo had this treehouse, and it was unveiled by Masuda, which is like the big head honcho over at the Pokemon company, or at Game Freak rather, um, that the National Dex is not going to be returning in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And at first, people might not really understand what this means, because I didn't at first. I just thought that like it just wasn't going to be like a thing. Like, okay, you fill out the regional decks, and then you know it is what like you can still transfer all your Pokemon in, but it's just for whatever reason it doesn't actually keep track of them, which would be weird. But that's basically what I thought it was. But no, that's not what they're doing. They're excluding Pokemon from being transferable into the game. Now, I don't think we have a set number or um, list yet. I think there've been lists circulating. I'm not sure if they're 100% accurate or anything. Um, but as far as I'm aware, there we don't have a set number of Pokemon or list of Pokemon that are being excluded. But basically, this is going to be like the first game um, ever. I'm pretty sure ever that you're not able to transfer your Pokemon from the previous gen, at least in some form or fashion, and that's rubbing a lot of people, the wrong way. And I can understand why. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on it, and getting a lot of different people's opinions, listening to them, and there's, from what I can gather, and just common sense, it doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Um, why Game Freak would be excluding these Pokemon. Um, you know, Pokemon X and Y had to throw what 700 something Pokemon into their game. They had to make entirely new models for that. They got that done. Um, and you already have a lot of these models that you should conceivably just be able to upres and be in the game. And I just don't understand why they just couldn't put in the effort to put them all in. And part of me thinks it's because, like, this new gimmick that they have, it's the what's it called, Dynamaxing, that I mean, it looks cool. Like, it's cool to see your Pokemon that big, but like, a part of me thinks that they just didn't want to have to go through the effort of making every like a new model for every Pokemon that is able to be Dynamaxed. Which, if that's the case, that's just weak, man. Like, I don't know. You just can't let a gimmick like that uh, hinder a feature that has been a staple of the franchise for basically 2 decades now. Like, I struggle to see why that would be the case. Um, but uh, I'm rambling terribly here. But like, I can understand the frustration with fans, and I really can. And it definitely it brought my hype down. Not that I have a ton of Pokemon in previous gens that I'd want to transfer. Like I've got some in X and Y. I didn't play much of Sun and Moon just because, for whatever reason, on Sun and Moon, it ran terribly on my 3DS XL, and I just couldn't get into it. And the hand holding was just insane, man. And so I could never really get into it as much as I wanted to. But I've got some Pokemon in X and Y that I'd probably like to transfer. And if I ever do get into Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon again, then I'd like to transfer them over. But like it looks like a lot of them we're just not straight up not going to be able to. And that decision, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for a lot of people, just because it seems so. I think it seems so out of touch with what Game Freak and especially like Nintendo. Like this doesn't seem like something that a big Nintendo franchise. And I know it's done by Game Freak, but it Pokemon's a Nintendo game. We all know that. It doesn't seem like something that a Nintendo game would be about. It's I don't know, just removing a feature that's so beloved and just a staple of the franchise. Um, really, really strange decision, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm asking too much of the developers, because if there's something just crazy that's preventing them from doing it, communicate. That's another thing that I just wish Game Freak would do a lot better, is communicate why this is happening. I mean, it's been like over a week, and I don't think we've gotten a good, legitimate answer why these Pokemon aren't being transferable. There was an interview. I'll try and link it in the description if I remember it, if I remember to. That was basically like Masuda was talking about competitive balance and stuff like that. That like adding all the Pokemon, it would be impossible to balance the game, which again that's I think that speaks more to the developers. Like you have to figure out ways to do that. They've done it for the past what seven gens. Yeah, 7 gens. They've been able to balance the Pokemon fairly. I mean, some Pokemon are better than others. It happens. But and they've been able to balance putting a fair amount of new Pokemon with old Pokemon in the games. There have always been Magikarp in games usually, but like there's a bunch of new Pokemon too in the ocean that you can catch, stuff like that. Like it's not that hard to do if you really think about it, in my opinion. But if it's a time thing, if it's if doing this would put the developers in an insane amount of crunch or something like that, they'd have to work 80-hour weeks, stuff like that. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to make it seem like I'm preaching here, because I'm really not, and I'm sure the games themselves are going to be really enjoyable. But I don't know, man. They're getting a lot of, I think, well-deserved criticism, and I hope that they see most of it as constructive, because I think it is. Because I think seeing all of this, I guess call it backlash, let's hopefully lets the developers know that people care, and they care about the franchise, and they want it to succeed, and they want it to be good. And of course they want to enjoy the game also, but I think mostly they want the franchise to keep going, keep succeeding, so they can keep making good quality games. And I worry that with this amount of backlash, that Game Freak is just gonna either get discouraged or something like that, which I don't want that to happen. I don't want this to become like a Fallout 76 situation. Like, say what you want about that game. It had a horrific launch. I didn't purchase it at launch. I was really hyped for it. Figured I'd wait a couple weeks, see what people were thinking. And it was just a complete disaster at launch. And I'm going to play the game eventually, but, that's a different topic for a different time. This is a Pokemon video. But, I don't want people to just completely just hate on the game and, go after devs or stuff like that. But I think it's fair criticism that, especially, people have been paying. I brought this up on Reddit that people have been paying for this service for what, or like the Pokemon Bank, rather. It's a service where basically you can transfer your Pokemon to it, and they're sort of stored in the cloud, and basically they're there to transfer to more gens, or like future generations of Pokemon, and if you need more storage than what the box originally gives you. And I utilized that feature a lot in Pokemon Y. It's the game in Gen 6 that I played. And it's only $5 a year, but still, I feel like having people pay for that service, I feel like you gave them the expectation that those Pokemon would be transferable for at least the foreseeable future. And I think Pokemon Bank, Pokemon X and Y came out in 2013, but I'm pretty sure Pokemon Bank's been around basically since then. So, I mean, 6 years, like, that kind of a cloud-based service can't last longer than that, and there's really no conceivable reason. And like, it's still staying, I believe, or they're gonna consolidate it into Pokemon Home. I'm not sure, but fact is, it's been around for that long, and people have been paying for it, and it just feels a little bit disingenuous to not have it, or to have it, some of those Pokemon not be able to be in the current gen. Again, I feel like I'm preaching here, which I'm really not trying to do, because I'm not that upset. I'm upset because, this is, someone said, someone said that, you know, everyone has a favorite Pokemon, or everybody's Pokemon is someone's favorite. Not being able to transfer, like, say, I don't know, man, friggin' Gastrodon from Gen 4 is your favorite Pokemon. I don't know anybody that's their favorite Pokemon, but it is. If it is yours, then more power to you. But if that's your favorite Pokemon, and you've been transferring it all the way up since you transferred it to Black and White, and then to maybe like Black and White 2, and then to X and Y, and then to Sun and Moon, and then all of a sudden, like, you can't use him anymore, if you use your Gastrodon anymore. Like, come on, man. Like, that's, I don't know, it feels not Pokemon, and it sort of betrays the like, I don't know, innocence of Pokemon in a way, or the pureness of Pokemon, that like, it feels like a corporate decision. It feels like a cutthroat, hey, we don't feel like doing this thing, or we need to allocate our resources to something that makes more money, like Let's Go, or Pokemon. Well, they don't develop Pokemon Go, really, but the Let's Go games, or their other spin-offs that they're doing, we need to allocate resources to that, so we're not going to bother to remake the models or whatever, because there's enough space on the game. That's not an issue. It's whether or not they want to do it, and I guess they just decided not to. And I'm sure a lot of the developers there, I can't speak for them, but I'm sure a lot of them didn't like that decision either, just like us, because they're Pokemon fans too. I think we forget that sometimes, that a lot of these developers probably love the games even more than we do. And I'm sure they weren't happy with that decision. But I just hope that no matter what happens, even if they have to come out next February or something and release a patch that allows all the Pokemon in, it'll be disappointing, but at least, you'll be able to have all your Pokemon in the game at some point. And I think that's the most important thing. But no matter what, even if they say, nope, this is how it's going to be until Gen 9, like, you're just not going to be able to transfer your Pokemon, sorry, that's it. Even if they say that, I just want them to communicate that a little bit better. Because they really shot themselves in the foot at E3, just kind of trying to slip that in at a treehouse. Like, that's something that deserves, like, the Metroid Prime 4 treatment. If you guys saw the video that basically Metroid Prime, or Nintendo went out and published a video on YouTube that was basically saying, hey, we weren't liking the direction that Metroid Prime 4 was going, the development was going, so we had to scrap it. And they came out and they were really transparent about it. And a lot of people, and 99% of people were very, very understanding. And they were bummed, yeah, but they Nintendo gave the fans a roadmap and an explanation rather, and I think that's huge. And if it doesn't feel like Game Freak is being entirely honest about what the decision-making process was in this and why they're not going to be able to do it. The reasons that they've given, whether it be competitive balancing or the other, time constraints, whatever. I don't even think that was one of the reasons they gave. But whatever the reason is, you have to come out and be transparent about it and not just slip it in at a treehouse event where a few thousand people are watching. That deserves a bit of an explanation because it's a change in the series that we haven't seen since ever, to my knowledge. Like, you've always been able to transfer your Pokemon up, and it's a change and it's a removal of a very, very key feature that's been integral since Pokemon's been around. Like, even you could transfer your Pokemon from a Game Boy cartridge to Pokemon Stadium, if I remember right. I didn't know how to do it because I was a stupid kid, but I know that you could transfer them, and that was so cool that you could use your Pokemon from that game in an N64 game. It blew my mind back then when I realized that it was possible. And to see that go away, I think that it's doing a disservice to Pokemon fans to not come out and really discuss why this is happening. And honestly, the game isn't looking that good to be able to justify it. Like, it looks good, it looks fine, but the graphics aren't making up for this. The Pokemon look great, I'll give it that. Wooloo is cute as hell. The starters all look pretty good. I got no gripes with them. That Raven Pokemon, I'm forgetting its name, looks awesome. Like, the game looks cool, but graphically they haven't taken a lot of steps forward. And this looks, the not being able to transfer your Pokemon looks like a step backwards. So I don't know, man. I hope that they're not getting lazy or getting complacent, because this is a series that is huge. This is like Nintendo's second or third biggest franchise, and it really needs to be treated as such now that it's on a home console like the Switch, a powerful enough console like the Switch. I mean, some of my favorite games are the Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Those are two of my favorite games. They're amazing. They take Pokemon in this really interesting direction with Shadow Pokemon. That whole concept. If you haven't played those games, I really recommend them. They're a bit expensive on the GameCube, but that was quality. And I believe the developers of those games was Genius Sonority, if I'm correct. Really good developers. I think unfortunately they're either defunct or they're not really working on much these days, but they really did a good job with those games, and you can tell the effort that they put into it. The animations are crisp and really good. Really, really beautiful games for being on the GameCube. And I hope to see that sort of polish and effort go into Pokemon games now, because it's not on a handheld anymore. This is a full HD console. And yeah, I just hope to see the quality go up, because fans have been here for 20 years. There's Pokemon fans that grew up with it that are in their 40s now. There's Pokemon fans that are in their 30s, their 20s, their teens. There's Pokemon fans of all ages. And I think they all, deserve to have a product that we can see the love go into it because we love the franchise, And the worst thing would be that Game Freak decides that they just don't care about Pokemon anymore, or they're getting complacent with it. Because if that's the case, I think the best thing to happen would be for them to take a 3 or 4 year break and just reset, work on the side games, work on their spin-off, or not spin-off, their like Town, I think, is a game that they're working on. Looks interesting. But just work on that, man. I know that's basically impossible because Pokemon is this huge empire, but I would hate to see the games become this cookie cutter. You get 150, 200 Pokemon to work with in a game, and then that's it, and you can't transfer the old ones, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that for Pokemon. I just really would like to see the effort put into it because, like I said, it's a huge franchise, and it's been a huge franchise for over 20 years now. Anyway, I'm rambling. This entire thing has just been one huge ramble. But I wanted to get my thoughts down, and this was totally unscripted and messy, and if you made it to the end of this video, congratulations, because I know I probably couldn't with how I was bouncing around. And I probably missed quite a few points that I would have rather brought up, but just forgot. But, I wasn't going to script this video because I wanted it to be my raw emotions, and that's what they were, and my raw thoughts. So I might go to the comments and write down a few things as I'm editing that I forgot or that I want to include. But regardless, I really appreciate you sticking around for the whole video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully this whole Pokemon situation resolves itself in a way that doesn't hurt the developers and is satisfactory to the fans. Because I think that's achievable, and I hope that we just get some good communication about what's going on. I think that's the most important thing to take away from this whole situation, is that communication when it comes to games and game development is key. As long as you have communication, I think fans will understand for the most part. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. I don't know why you would, but I appreciate it regardless. So hey, go ahead and subscribe. I write music and compose it, and sometimes I do video game music arrangements on my channel. If you're interested in those, you can subscribe. This isn't the kind of content I usually do, but I'd like to do more of this because I have a lot of thoughts sometimes, and I like to get them out and into the internet sphere. So yeah, that's going to be it for me. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.